The modern church has lost everything. The modern church has no idea who God is. And that's a problem. And it begins, listen to me, it begins with the idea that the person that is over these churches, the pastors or the preachers or the teachers in these churches, have not been called of God. But wait, they have degrees. He's got a bachelor degree. He's got an associate degree. Yes, he has paper, but he's not of God. Now explain this to me that in the churches are not looking for men of God. Instead, what they want is a worldly affirmation of this person. So did you go to seminary? Did you get this paperwork? Did you get this doctorate or this bachelor's degree or this sheet of paper? All of these things. But they never ask if you go apply at any church today, what you'll see is, do you have this degree? Can you sing? Can you dance? They want to see how you look. All of these things, all the things that are outside of what God is looking for. So if God is not looking for those things, then tell me why the church is looking for these particular things. And the church does not have a discerning spirit. And that's a concerning spirit. Because we've allowed the world to dictate what it is to be a pastor or to be a preacher or a bishop or an elder. We let the world determine that now. So this is what you get. So since the world is the one that determines if a person is qualified, if a person is fit to be in these churches, to lead these churches, to shepherd these churches, we let the world decide that. And so what the world does is say, I want to see a person that looks good, a person that's tall, that's dark, that's handsome. Matter of fact, when you're looking for a pastor, why don't you just get a woman? And she can dress all funny looking. So what you get is a pastor that will stand on the stage in a church, quote unquote, spit in his hand and rub it on another man's face for your entertainment. Or you get co-pastors. You get co-pastors with their NFL jerseys on, and they will put a Bible down and punt it across the stage to entertain you. Bouncing on trampolines, no idea what the Trinity is, none of it. But hey, he has a degree. Paperwork. So this month, this is June, right? So this month, across the country, there will be a celebration of sin running throughout this country. Sexual sin celebrated all throughout this country. Now, wait a minute now, because as the kids say, math ain't mathing. The math is not mathing. How can you tell me that a church, that the church is every 10 miles or so? You know, different types of Lutheran church. 5 miles from there is a Baptist church. 5 miles from there, there's a Church of God in Christ. Then there's a Church of Christ. Then there's a Methodist church. Then the Jehovah's Witness over here. Then you got Mormons over here. Every 5-6 miles. Everywhere. But then you tell me that the country will then celebrate this month sexual sin, and there's no ramifications, there's no problems, there's just celebration across the board. Why can that happen? I'll tell you why. Because the preachers and the teachers and the pastors in these buildings are not men of God, but rather, I have a degree. I have paperwork. I've been confirmed by the world, and then you wonder why there's no issue with the things that the world does in these churches. The youth will put it like this: they stand on business. They're standing on business. As a man of God, you should be standing on kingdom business. They're standing on the world. You should be standing in the word. But instead, churches have no idea who is called to preach. Jeremiah, watch this. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before you were in your mother's womb, before you came out of the womb, I sanctified you and I ordained you to be a prophet of the nations. Who ordained him? God ordains. God gives purpose. God gives path. God gives vision. God gives power to who you are. Now, if the church is looking for men of God, if the church is looking for women of God, if the church is looking for children of God, the church of all places should be able to see that. But the problem is that the churches have everything. Churches got everything. They got praise team, football team, basketball team, polo, pool team. They got the flag girls. They got everything except for God. Teachers are standing up and they're saying everything except for the word. Teaching you how to do everything except for what is biblical. I want to read a passage for you. This is Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 18. I believe it is. I want you to see it with me. Proverbs 18:16. A man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. You can't buy your way into faith. You can't buy your way into your calling. You can't buy your way into pastoralship. You can't buy your way into being a preacher or a teacher, a man of God. You can't buy that. God has given that as a gift. So if the church that you are attending cannot see that a person has been sent by God, what happens when the blind leads the blind? And you wonder why our nation and our church, and certainly there are some good churches out there, I'm talking about the majority, that we wonder why people have alienated the church. People stop going to church. Church attendance is down. People look at church as weak. People have no idea who God is. People are lost. People go to church to hear the singing, have no idea about the word. Because there's no God in the churches. There's no men of God in the churches. But these buildings look extravagant and full of light shows and confetti and just flashings and all of this stuff that doesn't change lives. And so when sin comes into the picture, we just say, oh, well, who am I to judge? What am I to do? You are weak and you are cowardice. Just a group of people meeting on Sundays with no power, no purpose, no provision, no health, no strength, no nothing. But hey, he has a degree. He's got some paperwork. We started, I guess, 10, 12 years ago now, we started outreach. We went out of church in a traditional sense, right? So we went out and we said, we're going to the streets. We're gonna talk to people. We're gonna do our best to try to help people. We're gonna try to pray for people, whatever the case may be. You don't know it. We're scared. I'm shaking in my boots. It's the very first time we go out and try to do this. Who knows what's going to happen? Somebody's get out and beat us up. Who knows? I don't know. But I know that we need to get out and do this. God is pushing us towards this thing. And I remember us being out there and had a big sign held up like, hey, come pray with us if you want prayer or whatnot. And as I'm doing that, I saw a young lady coming from across the street. She was at a gas station. And she came across and she says, I want you to please pray for my sister. Wow. Wow. Like, certainly, we held hands and we prayed all that for her sister. But I was curious, and I asked, I said, you came over here for this prayer. Do you go to church or not? She says, no, I don't go to church. I said, why don't you just go to church and, they can help you out and all that? She says, no. They don't understand at the church and stuff like that. They don't accept me at the church like that. They don't hear me at those churches. I said, wow. A young woman would not go into the church. Just feels like the church doesn't have anything for her, doesn't have any power for her. But she comes across 4 lanes of traffic to pray with a man that she doesn't even know. We don't have a lot of churches. We have a lot of people that are meeting in buildings on Sunday with nothing.